What's the dumbest rule you've ever been caught breaking? I was 21 when I had to go to this government building to sort out some paperwork for school loans. The place was huge and gray, smelled like old coffee and printer ink. Everything echoed. You could hear heels clicking down the hall from a mile away. I sat in this waiting area with a ticket in my hand, staring at the digital board while numbers changed slower than death. I wasn't alone. There was this woman sitting across from me, mid-40s maybe. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept. Her hair was messy and she kept rubbing her hands together. On her lap was a folder stuffed with papers. Every now and then she pulled one out, read it, then shoved it back in. Her leg bounced non-stop. After an hour, her number got called. She walked up to the counter where this clerk in a pressed shirt and shiny tie sat. The guy had the kind of face that looked bored before he even opened his mouth. She handed him the folder. He flipped through it without looking at her, just kept shaking his head. He said she was missing some form. Without it, she couldn't get the housing assistance she applied for. He pushed the folder back like it was garbage. She tried to explain that her husband had just left her and their kids. She said she'd been crashing on her sister's couch and working nights at a grocery store, and she thought she had every form she needed. She even held up her pay stubs, but the guy didn't budge. "You'll need to reschedule," he said flat. "Next appointment is in 6 weeks." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. She looked down at her folder like maybe the missing form would magically appear. Then she whispered, "Please, I can't wait 6 weeks." The clerk leaned back in his chair and said rules were rules. His voice was cold. He didn't care. That's when it hit me. She was about to cry right there in front of everyone, and nobody in the room looked up. Not one person. Everyone kept their eyes on their phones or the floor. She turned to leave, shoulders hunched, clutching that stupid folder like it was all she had left. I don't know what came over me, but I just said it out loud without thinking. "Come on, man, help her out." It wasn't loud, just enough for him to hear. The whole room went still anyway. The clerk's head snapped toward me. His eyes narrowed like I just cursed him out. He stood up, walked over, and told me talking wasn't allowed in the waiting area. Said I was disrupting the process. I laughed a little because it sounded so insane. Disrupting the process by asking him to show some heart, but he was dead serious. I muttered, "Sorry, won't happen again." Thought that was it. 10 minutes later, my number got called. I walked up to a different counter, sat down, started pulling out my own papers. Halfway through, the clerk from earlier marched over and handed me a slip of paper. Said I was being written up for verbal disruption, and that I had to pay a $50 fine before my paperwork could be processed. I stared at him like he was out of his mind. $50 for saying 7 words. I wanted to argue, but what could I do? I needed my papers done, so I paid it. My stomach burned the whole time. A month later, I got a letter in the mail from the appeals office. Inside was a check for $50 and a typed note. Said the fine had been reviewed and overturned after someone higher up saw footage of the interaction. They called the punishment an excessive misuse of authority. No explanation, no apology, just the check. But I'll never forget her face, the woman with the folder, when she walked out that day. Like she'd been crushed by a rule that cared more about a missing piece of paper than whether her kids had a place to sleep. And all I did was clap back with one line. 7 words, $50.